Hey folks, thanks for checking out this video. It's our next in a series of slide presentations on Ham Radio 101 for the prepared. The topic of this video is using a group band plan. Now, the topics we'll cover are why you want to have a plan in the first place, how to set up a plan with a purpose, set up a schedule for calling and monitoring, and then as typical on these slide presentations, we'll have the keep your comms private and practice slides as well. So being prepared with a radio means more than simply having a radio, especially with a group. Whether that group be your immediate family, your neighborhood, off-road clubs like for Jeeps or ATVs, backcountry hunting, backpacking, canoe trips, etc., etc. Having a good plan in place on how to use your radios will help you be the most effective. So, why have a band plan? Simply put, is to be able to contact others quickly. You want to be able to turn on the radio and go directly to where you'll be able to be heard and to hear others in your group. And if you're in a crowded area, you don't want to interfere with others, and you don't want others to interfere with you. Basically, you just want to be able to find a quiet space to get your communication needs done. Besides being able to find each other quickly, you want to be able to move around to stay away from others if needed. And this is just not for ham radios, but this is also a good practice for FRS and GMR radios as well. So the best way to do it is to set up a couple frequencies that you're going to use. Designate one as a rendezvous point or a rallying point or call-in station. And if needed, move from there. And by doing this, we'll also build in a little bit of privacy, which of course we'll discuss later. So we want to make sure we plan with a purpose. I would recommend that you would set 5, maybe 10 frequencies to a memory channels. Pick frequencies that are not well used, such as the national call frequencies and frequencies used by repeaters. I would stay on the ARL's designated plan for simplex just to keep things easy. And also you want to avoid simplex frequencies that are often used by clubs. Most clubs that have a repeater, they'll have a simplex frequency that they use, and that's used for emergencies like when the repeater's down or when they're activating like a Skywarn or Races or Aries type nets. Generally, they'll meet off the repeater and see if they need to move from there. So giving those channels some space, or those frequencies some space, is probably the best idea. You don't want to get in the way of their business. Unless, of course, you have something of value to add, but that's another discussion. And as a side note for your band plan, you'd also want to add those frequencies in so that you're always able to monitor them, gathering information. Like I said in other videos, you want to listen more than you talk on a radio, and listening into Aries and Skywarn nets are great ways to get information during emergencies or bad weather. And also keep things in mind that not everybody in your group will have the same radio. That's why I suggest saving them to all your frequencies you're going to use, save them to a channel in your memory and give them a designated name, something simple, team channel 1, team channel 2. I mean, you can get creative and, foxtrot yellow or whatever, but again, keeping things simple, especially for like that example I used for off-road groups. You might have some passenger in your off-road vehicle that isn't really into radio, and you may need to have that person monitor the radio for you while you're working on your Jeep or side-by-side or whatever. So being able to navigate through the radio by someone without a lot of practice will keep things easier. And also, with not everybody's radios are the same. A lot of them don't have a dual monitor capabilities. So if you use a cross-band repeater in your group, make sure that you plan that accordingly. I would recommend if your radios can do a split, I'd recommend programming them that way. Again, keeps things nice and easy. And the next thing we'll talk about is having a call monitor set schedule. So why would you want a call monitor schedule? It's just simply, especially in an emergency situation, say a neighborhood type situation where a severe storm goes through, tornado or an earthquake or whatever, and you're doing a lot of work. You're checking on neighbors, you're clearing trees from roads, you're clearing trees from driveways and houses, that type of thing. You don't want to be constantly on your radio listening in for non emergency items. So you want to set up a call schedule to, depending on the situation, every couple hours, make sure you monitor radio for a few minutes. The wilderness protocol is a perfect example of the way to do that. There's lots of videos on that. Also, you may want to set up group controlled nets. I would think that maybe a morning net and an evening net would be a good way to go. Where it's 7, 8, 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever time works for you. Have everyone check in, see how they're doing, what they're planning on doing for the day. Again, I'm using the storm damage cleanup example. And then go about your day. And then in the evening, you can touch base and go over everybody's condition, wants, needs, plans for the next day, etc. So doing this not only frees up your time, but it also extends the life of your batteries because, if things are going pretty good, you can turn the darn thing off or a couple of them off if you have a family unit. If you have 4 people in your family, just have one radio on. And when you're out, you can, where I'm going with that. And of course, you can always adapt your schedule given the situation, more or less check in times. If things are getting spicy, you might want to check in every half hour or 15 minutes. If things are pretty calm, every 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours, once a day, what have you. Also, keep in mind digital modes like APRS. You can set up a beacon to go out, and you can also check your messages on that. So, digital modes may be useful for this need as well. So back to one of my favorite topics is keeping your comms private. Keep in mind that good people may not be the only ones listening. I know of people that in my area were cleaning up over storm damage for tornadoes and such, that they've had chainsaws and generators stolen from them. There's bad people that just look for opportunities, so keep that in mind. A good example is like posting on Facebook that you're going to go on vacation for 2 weeks. It's not a good idea because when you come back in 2 weeks, somebody may have already paid you a visit. So, the number one thing is don't say anything out loud, don't say anything on the radio that you wouldn't say out loud in public. That's just kind of common sense. Keep your comms brief. The sooner you say what you need to say and get off the air, the less likely people will scan through and find you, that kind of things. And avoid using obvious code words and phrases. There's no need for the chairs against the wall or the eagle flies at midnight. Besides being illegal, that's just going to raise suspicion, and people are going to start paying more attention to you. And it kind of goes back in line with the first thing. Avoid names of people, locations, and topics. Keep things as generic as possible. A good example, again, of the off-road club, if you say Billy's Jeep is almost out of gas, so we're going to park at this trail intersection and we'll pick it up on the way out. Well, somebody might pay Billy's Jeep a visit while you're going on your adventure, so a little common sense like that. Another good tactic would be to change frequencies during the conversation. That's why I would recommend having, 5 to 10 channels set up where you can move about your band plan throughout the conversation. You can even set things up predetermined that, after 2 exchanges, you move up 1 channel in your memories or down or what have you. Again, keep it simple, but you can get a little creative as well. And then also you can use split frequency comms where two individuals are transmitting and listening on 2 different frequencies. That could be useful as well, because that way if somebody stumbles across one of you, they're only hearing one side of the conversation. All right. And then now to practice. Practice, practice, practice. As I keep saying, the first time you use your radio shouldn't be an emergency. You should be very familiar with it and get some use out of it and enjoy the hobby of ham radio in the first place. So, as always, participate Participate in local clubs if possible. If there's a club nearby, join it. Get on the repeater nets. That is a great way to make sure your gear works. It gives you practice using a controlled net format, which is the way you want to go. A controlled net helps make sure that important information gets passed along, and it's just a good practice. Uh, Participate in portable radio activities such as field days. There's usually or not usually, there's a ARRL puts on a field day in the summer, and there's also a winter field day, which will be good practice for you to get out and use your gear portable. And then you don't need to have a set date. There's parks on the air and summits on the air. I participate in those activities. They're a lot of fun. You can do those anytime you want. And you can just plain go out and play radio wherever you want, whenever you want as well. Uh, and if you're working with a groups for obvious reasons, you should practice together. Get a couple of you out, and just practice on the Jeep trails again, or go to a park and play parks on the air or summits on the air, that type of thing. And you can also just set up regular check-in simplex nets with your group if you live close enough to each other. Just have a Tuesday morning coffee chat or what have you. So that's about it. Don't want to go too long. It's just some basic information. I didn't give you anything that's secret squirrel type stuff. It's pretty common sense, and I'm by no means an expert, but I just want to bring up some talking points to give you all something to think about. Come up with a plan that best fits your group's needs and practice it. So that's it. I'm signing off. If you like this type of content, feel free to subscribe and see some more. Catch you next time.